Lately, I've kind of just been thinking about the things that I have in front of me, right? I feel like I've been struggling with gratitude, and that's a problem that stems back a while back, honestly. And what I mean by that is, we have a lot of good things around us that we wouldn't necessarily understand until we kind of like look at ourselves from the outside in, right? We don't really understand just how much we really have going for ourselves until we look at ourselves from that like third person view almost, right? And I remember in high school, right? I was class of 23. I remember in high school constantly feeling bad about myself. I was always I was always so judgmental of myself. I was constantly making myself feel bad about the person that I was. But how do we stop that? Sometimes you gotta look from different angles, right? You gotta almost like think about how, like, don't think about how others perceive you, right? Perceive yourself as this greater thing. Not this greater thing, but perceive yourself as yourself, just you are yourself. And I feel like what honestly changed my life the day that I started to realize how important small wins are, right? I'm talking about, you got your first job, regardless of what the pay is. Job is a job. And I feel like society has drifted away from that idea. When you're in high school, you're not expected to make a lot. In your early 20s, you're not expected to make a lot, right? Even as you get older, right? All these expectations set by the world are not real. Now, obviously, by some point, you probably should be out of your parents' house, or, you know, maybe you should be working some sort of job you can actually get a career, like start a career in. But even if you aren't, like, there is no obligation to do this by a certain time. I feel like we kind of created this concept that if we don't have a certain amount of things, a certain amount of, what's the word, um you get what I'm trying to say. If you don't have certain things, the nice cars, the nice clothes. I personally, I shop branded clothes, yes, but a lot of what I wear personally comes from wholesalers. I make clothes. I kind of just design everything that I wear. But for the most part, even the stuff that isn't my own design, I get it from random brands that I know that either wholesale for others or that are good quality stuff. Right? So when we get to thinking so much into things like this, we start beating ourselves up. And I feel like the biggest thing that you can do for yourself is celebrate small wins, right? You have to deal with yourself before, you're okay to deal with others. You have to love who you are. And that doesn't necessarily come from just, like, I don't know what the expectations really are for loving yourself. Right? I don't know what you might be thinking, but I remember when I was struggling, and when I first realized that, hey, I need help. And I feel like that realization, obviously, it hit some of us. Some of us struggle to admit that. I remember the first time I actually asked for help. I was 15, going into sophomore year, and I basically hated everything about myself. And during this time, I, was hurting myself. And during this time where I was hurting myself, I thought very poorly of myself. It's kind of like a given, like, oh hey, he's cutting himself. Definitely has low self esteem. But I remember telling myself that I was a bad person, and I don't know where that idea really came from. Honestly, I don't understand it. If I tell you now, hey, am I the greatest person ever? No. Do I qualify as like a good person? Sure, I do. There isn't. You gotta remember, there's not some standard. This isn't a test, right? This isn't. You're not in school anymore. There's not a rubric to what you're meant to have. Right? You either have things or you don't have them yet. Right? The idea that you get everything from one day to another honestly kills some of it. You got to understand how difficult, and you got to understand that you have to be open to learning. Right? You have to be open to meeting different sides of you. A lot of people don't understand that. Like who are you when everything goes wrong? Who are you when you're heartbroken? Who are you when you don't get that job you all your friends got senior year? Who are you when you just graduated college and still can't get a job? Who are you when the job offer finally comes in? Who are you then? If you're not the same person in a way, if you're not going to react and regardless of what you got in front of you, like maybe you don't work the job you want to right now, a job. You have to learn to give yourself credit for that. Someone out there right now praying, applying, and their hopes are the same as yours. Just you happen to get it. Might have fell short from the thing that you were actually trying to go. But you got something. Got something. I remember thinking that I was this like super different, like like we all went through that at the beginning, like high school, and think that you're like the top of the world. And I remember the first time I realized that nothing was magical. That it was regardless where I stand, happen. I remember when I learned that you have to be okay with bad that comes with certain things, right? And you have to honestly look deep in yourself and learn to tell yourself and understand the difficulty of. You have to understand that you're trying your best, right? You have to really look at yourself, and even if you're not trying your best, you have to take that next step and try your best. Sometimes you have to be very honest with yourself. You have to look at who you are as a person at this moment and simply get better. And what does get better mean? Get better means being a different you, right? Like I said, who are you when this happens? Who are you when you don't? Who are you when you have this, right? Will you? What does it take for you to be grateful? It shouldn't take anything for you. Shouldn't. There's not prereqs to being grateful. Always be grateful. Here every day. People are here today and gone tomorrow. Some people lost themselves or are losing themselves. To anyone losing themselves, the probably the best thing I can do is tell you need to look in the. I remember when I was feeling at my worst, I struggled to look at. I was in a way disgusted. by myself. I was disgusted at the person that I was. That horrible. Not being able to be okay with the reality that was. And I remember the first time that I went and sat in the chair of a therapist, and the first therapy session, as basic as it gets, because you're gonna hear a lot of the same things. Oh, do it again. Don't give up. What does that mean? The the longer that you sit there and ponder about yourself, the longer you'll sit there and let the world move around you. You'll be stuck in the same place forever if you don't look at the different angles. And what I mean by that is you have to accept the reality, change it. Want the change, you have to create or prepare yourself for the change. What happens, like I said, who are you when the change comes? You have to be ready to meet, to come face to face with the difficulty that will follow you. Because nothing's going to be at any point. And if anybody ever tells you, hey, it gets easier, they're lying. It doesn't. Well, it does, but it's not necessarily going to get better. It has no obligation to magically get better. What you need to do is start. So when bad things happen, look at yourself and ask yourself, what can I do? Change this. What can I do to make a difference? What can I do? Everything bad. What can I do? And what goes right with what can I do? I did my best. It didn't work out, but I did my best. Sometimes that is all you can do, and that is okay, right? Because it probably doesn't make sense right now. It will make sense tomorrow. Might not make sense the day after that. One day it'll make perfect sense. One day when everything lines together, we're able to appreciate things a little differently, then it'll make sense. So when they say take your time, they don't mean, oh, wait a week, right? Because the day you realize that life isn't a fairy tale that one day to another, you know, makes itself better, that'll be the day your life changes.